What's up, everyone? It's Cannan.
It's Jessie.
And we are the Geeky Saying Couple. And boy, it's been a while since we've done that introduction. This is your first video in 4 months. She's either been sick or she's been busy working on cosplays. Oh, and Blake is with us as well. If you've not seen on Twitter but saw the video where I first introduced our cat, and if you've not watched any of the streams I've done, turns out we suck at deciding a cat's gender. She is a girl, so we went from calling her Gohan to back to calling her Blake. And since she is still at the age where she will wreak havoc if we do not pay attention to her, we decided to put her in the video that way. Hopefully she'll behave. But she's gotten a lot bigger since the first time I did a video with her. So what is this video about? Well, as you can see by the title, we are going to be talking about the similarities yet differences between Team RWBY and Team STRQ. And we are also going to be talking about the similarities between each member, that being Ruby and Summer, Weiss and Crow, Blake and Raven, and Yang and Tai. Now, I first heard of this concept in another RWBYtuber's video. I do not remember what their name was. I don't think their channel is even around anymore. But in one of their videos, they had mentioned that Team RWBY was kind of becoming a better put together and better Team STRQ, and that really I think this was years ago. This was before Volume 6, I believe. And I've sat on this idea for a while. And I wanted Jess in this because, you know, most RWBY videos are us together, even though she was in none of the Viz videos when RWBY got announced to be bought by Viz. But she'll get to talk about two of her favorite characters together, that being Blake and Raven. Now, let's talk about the teams first. Now, sadly, even to this day, as of Volume 9, we still don't really have that much information on Team STRQ at all.
We've gotten, like, breadcrumbs.
Yeah. Like, all we know is that Crow brags that they were the best team that ever came out of Beacon. And we know that, in a way, like Team RWBY, they were made privy to not all, of course, but some of Ozpin's secrets. They learned about Salem and things like that. But somewhere along the line, Team STRQ kind of fragmented. We do know that Raven and Crow came to Beacon to get stronger so they could more effectively kill huntsmen and huntresses to protect their tribe. But somewhere along that line, Crow went one way, Raven went the other. Raven kind of never left that mentality of protecting the tribe, where Crow, and this was kind of confirmed in the show, Crow kind of developed a sense of home with Ozpin. And then we also learned that that's the reason why they can turn into birds, is because Ozpin used some magic so they could be his eyes. But somewhere around the line, Raven started questioning Ozpin. She became suspicious. And as time went on, fear got to her and she ran. Not before ending up with Tai and having Yang. But we all know that Raven left when Yang was still a baby, and she really never came back as far as they know. But we learned in Volume 9, even after she had left and Tai and Summer had gotten together and had RWBY, Raven and Summer were still going on missions together. So, and apparently, it's kind of obvious, Summer didn't tell Tai. So, and Crow kind of did his own thing for Ozpin, and then, you know, as the series went on, we learned more about Ozpin's secrets, we learned more about Salem and all that. Crow had, like, it was almost like Crow had his. It's never said in the show, but you could almost want to think that at some point in Crow's mind, he thought Raven was right, in some ways. Ty, besides Summer, is like, we literally know very little about Ty as far as the Beacon days. We know that he kind of was a ladies' man in a way, but do we even know what Ty's semblance is? Yeah, we don't know.
There's a lot. The further we're going forward, the more questions. Especially even more so after that flashback of Raven and Summer. So,
yeah. And like, really, all we know about Ty is that he became a teacher at Signal, but when Summer disappeared, he literally like took a leave of absence and just broke down to the point where Yang had to take care of Ruby on her own. Next to Ty, Summer is really the other one that we don't have a backstory on Summer. We recently in Volume 9 learned what her weapon looked like, what her final design was. But we have no idea on a fighting style or anything like that.
We at least know who her partner is.
Yeah. It kind of does seem like that her and Raven were partners.
Well, I know there was some things floating around, like, about RWBY in general, like the show is all the teams, like, your partner is the names you go, like, the first to the second team. That's definitely proven wrong.
Yeah, because of Juniper.
Yeah. There's a couple other teams too.
Because it's John, Nora, Pyrrha, then Ren. Yeah. So yeah, it's not the whole teammates are always next to each other.
I can't remember if Coffee's was in line or not. It's been a while.
I'd have to look at it. I can't.
It's been a while since I've looked at letters, but
because I know
that was just like proven right there. What?
It's not. I don't. Well. It might, I think so, because Coco and Fox are partners, and Yatsuhashi and Velvet are, so it would be CFVY. So in that case, I think it's that one.
Yeah, so like it's pretty much one or the other.
And Team Sun is different as well, I think. No, I'm sure. I think the leader is always the first letter.
Yeah.
So in that case, it's Sun, Scarlet, Sage, and then Neptune. Or Scarlet and Sage could skip. So yeah, in that case, it's not because Sun and Neptune are partners. So yeah, it's not always the same. But yeah, I really don't think if Crow was still like doing stuff for Ozma at that point, I don't think if Summer and Crow were partners, or if Raven and Crow were partners, that it wouldn't have been Raven and it wouldn't have been Raven that Summer met. But yeah, we learned another thing and like that despite after Raven leaving and after Ruby's birth, she still came around just in secret, like they still went on missions together. And to this day, we still don't know 100% what Summer's mission was. We all believe it was to try and kill Salem because there is something they're still not telling us about the Silver-Eyed Warriors. Because, and we'll get a little bit into this when we compare Ruby and Summer, Ozpin always goes for the students who have silver eyes. That was Summer. That's how Team Stark became technically part of Ozpin's circle, and that's what led Team RWBY to being
it's clearly
included.
A key.
Yeah, there's something they have not told us yet.
Well, another thing is I lost my train of thought. It had to do with that though, like God, I can't remember now.
Well, if you come back to it, just let me know. But yeah, we kind of learned a little bit, that, Ty and Crow kind of became best buds, and they, like putting on the skirts and stuff like that. Like they were kind of, in some ways, maybe the popular kids of Beacon, and they became such a well-known team. But I really do think Summer having silver eyes is what led them to being noticed by Ozpin to eventually be brought into the fold. And what happens with Team RWBY? He lets RWBY in, 2 years before she would have been of age to go to Beacon. And the first thing he notices is she has silver eyes. Do you remember?
Yes. Another thing is that started even more questions is when Salem had said, when Summer was mentioned, oh, her.
Yeah.
But to me, that was another thing that just, it led up to the more of, until proven, she's not dead. The thing is I don't think she would be, because especially if the way Salem had just nonchalantly went over that, to me, it sounds like I still think she's captured, because the way she went about it, she would have just straight out said, oh, well, she doesn't exist anymore.
Well, of course, there was the stuff we learned in Volume 8 about, the Hound and all that, but Ruby's only guessing that's what happened to Summer. I don't know. The fact that they're still keeping Summer's fate a huge mystery, even to this day. I know people have claimed that they've said in the past that she is indeed dead, but I've never
It's never been confirmed, and it's... you can search through even, archives of,
they keep changing
websites,
the story
and there's
around
nothing there. It was never confirmed. There's just a grave. There's, but the thing is especially after 9, that leaves even more question and puts even more doubt in that theory that she's dead. Yeah. So, it leaves a lot of holes, and it obviously means Raven knows something.
And, with the way the story is going, if Summer is alive, I think we will more than likely see a Team Stark reunion, because Crow's already there. We know from RWBY Rewind and the epilogue that Raven, Raven's the one that finds them and brings them to where everybody is. We don't know where Ty is. But wait, was it? He was mentioned in RWBY Rewind. Yeah, Ty's there as well. So we could potentially be building up to a Stark reunion somehow.
It's the thing is, I really do hope in 10 we do get some type of flashback about how Raven found out to try and find Yang.
Yeah.
So my theory is still, and it still fits with everything, it still fits that, because there was that little clip at the end where we know Raven went to see Ty.
Yeah.
I think, because that's when the news broadcast would have happened. And
at the end of Volume 5?
No, that, when they showed everything at the end, when we had the news broadcast and everything happened the way it did.
Oh. So are you saying, the part where...
I think she may have saw it, or saw it somewhere, now, but that's the only thing.
You're talking about the scene where her... Feather. Yeah, so you're saying...
Because that was...
But you're saying, even though that scene was shown at the end of Volume 5, are you saying they were showing us a future scene of when they're in... that happens while they're in Atlas after the news broadcast?
I don't know about that. It just seems like, obviously she went there.
Well, yeah, but we still to this day don't know what exactly was talked about.
Oh, I know, but I really do think it's possible that she was there, or that's just where a connection happened, and she knows that he's worried about her. She's...
We know
after that last moment with her and Yang, she's... Obviously, she's feeling emotional, so it would spiral out that...
Well, yeah,
that Yang's gone.
Yeah, but that's kind of self-explanatory, because at the end, RWBY Rewind, we now know that she's there. She's in Vacuum.
Well, yeah, I know that.
She's the one that finds them and brings them. So she's obviously had a change of heart. But that's enough about the two. As I said, eventually it seems like Team Stark fragmented. Ty ended up with Raven, then he ended up with Summer disappeared. Raven left and stayed gone. Crow stayed under Ozpin, while also becoming a teacher as well with Ty. Where Team RWBY has had their issues, have been split up, but they've remained together. They have become a family together. And they are definitely, through everything, sticking together way more through probably worse circumstances through it all. Now, I don't want this to be a very, 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 very long video, so let's get to the individual members. So, the first two, of course, who have the obvious connection is RWBY and Summer. Both team leaders, mother and daughter. RWBY may as well be a carbon copy of her mom as far as looks go. But since we don't have really any of Summer's background, we can't really compare them a whole lot. We just know that, according to Yang, she was super mom. She baked the best cookies and, slayer of monsters, baker of cookies. But really, that's all we really know. What I was shocked with was, for years, people had tried to theorize what kind of weapon Summer had. Some thought maybe a sword. Some wonder if maybe she had a scythe as well. No, turns out she's got a freaking battle axe that I think the gun form was a shotgun, wasn't it?
I think so.
Yeah, an axe that turns into a shotgun. What about that? So that makes me think that maybe her semblance was nowhere, like it wasn't a speed semblance like RWBY. So that means, to use video game terms, RWBY is a fast-paced like DPS, where Summer might have been more of a tank with that big old axe and all that.
What would Raven have been then?
I mean, I guess a DPS as well. I mean, she uses a sword. I mean, I'm just saying, like, since we've not seen Summer fight, we don't really know anything about her fighting style, her semblance. We just know she had silver eyes like RWBY. But of course, was a very sweet, caring mom. And of course, RWBY fell into the same situation as Summer because she's got silver eyes. We all know there is something that we do not know about silver eyes when it regards to defeating Salem. Hopefully, whenever Volume 10 airs, we'll start maybe learning that with how many ever volumes that RWBY has. Now, moving on to probably the most the two characters that people might raise their eyebrows at is how are they connected is Weiss and Crow. And one word.
I thought it was Ty.
No, Ty's Yang.
I was going in order of the letters. Never mind.
Well, I'm going in RWBY order, but I'll say one word that connects Weiss and Crow the best. Isolation. Though it was different. For Weiss, she was alone against her will because of who her father is, what kind of person he is, the kind of condition her mother was in. Her older sister, who was probably at the very beginning of the series the only one that showed that she actually cared, often joined the military, was gone, and we all know that her and Whitley's relationship was not very good at first at all. And so, yes, she had Klein, but you have to, and we really saw it in Volume 4 when she was pretty much locked up by Jacques, is that she's lived a very lonely life, being the heiress of a company as famous as the Schnee Dust Company, but the bad reputation that her father created for the family would follow her as well. Now, of course, yeah, Weiss did not do herself any favors acting the way she did when the story started, but we learned, even within Volume 1, that underneath, it was mostly like she was putting on an act, and she felt like she had to. I'm sure her father put it in her head somehow. But, as the story progressed, Weiss, especially by volume 4 and 5, Weiss's whole little icy wall she's put around herself has deteriorated. She is more caring towards her teammates and her friends. She shows more compassion. We've also learned that Weiss has a very big silly side, especially thanks to Volume 9. But she always eventually had someone and I think really what helped Weiss the most was Team RWBY. I really do, because they were there for her. Volume 7. Oh, so these are the little friends you threw everything away for. Not friends, family. She saw her team as more of a family to her than her own family. Now, of course, there's Winter. She loves Winter. Winter, despite how Winter acted in Volume 3, Winter does care about her sister. We saw that in the epilogue. But thanks to Volume 8, Weiss has rekindled a relationship with her mother, with her brother. It's never great when you lose a parent, but I really don't think they would mourn Jacques for long, and they'd be okay just without him. With Crow, his isolation was self-induced because of his semblance, his bad luck semblance. And so that's why he's always gone. And that's why he mostly works alone. That kind of, he keeps up the bravado very well through most of it. But of course, in Volume 6, when he finally learns Ozpin's secrets and Salem's secrets, he said nobody wanted him. He was cursed. And meeting Ozpin was the worst bit of bad luck he could ever have. But, of course, Crow went heavily more into drinking than ever in the series. But after Volume 6, into Volume 7, he's quit drinking. He has a bit more confidence. But I think meeting and working with Clover, a character who had a good luck semblance that would kind of negative out Crow's bad luck, he finally found someone that he could possibly work with and have no negative effects. Sadly, that only lasted one volume. but even after Clover's death, Crow didn't sink back into that pit.
He took anything you can already tell that he took anything that Clover had said to him or had done or anything, he took it and ran with it, to not fall backwards, because it was showing that if he actually took what Clover had said, it was gonna still counter out the bad luck he was having. So, I guess putting used to being more positive thinking regardless of how bad you think situations usually get. So
yeah.
That was a good thing for him.
Yeah, so with Weiss and Crow, the theme is definitely self-isolation. Well, not self-isolation, because Crow's was self-induced because of his semblance. He stayed away. He never really, he had his family, because after Ruby and Yang were born, he's an uncle now, so he's got to come around. We do know that he saved Yang and Ruby when they were kids. But other than that, he felt like he had to stay away for most of the time. Weiss was alone because of her family situation, and she gathered strength from it, but it wasn't until becoming a member of Team RWBY where she finally saw that she kind of was a caged bird, in a way. So now moving on to Blake and Raven. So, Jess, I'm sure without even thinking, you can already tell the connection between these two, because what did both of them do?
They ran?
Yes. Now, Raven ran because no matter what kind of reason she gives, she was scared of Salem. She ran to protect herself. Blake didn't run because of Salem, she ran because of Adam, but she felt like where Raven did it for selfish reasons, Blake did it for a selfless reason, but of course, there's always better ways to do it. She could have talked to her team, she could have talked to Yang, coulda, woulda, shoulda. Now, of course, both of these characters ran, and they left a certain person. Raven abandoned Yang as a baby. And I wouldn't say Blake abandoned Yang because she did do it to protect her, but that was another person that Yang had gotten close to that left. Now, of course, the differences are night and day. Blake eventually realized her error in the way she did things. Thanks to her father, her mother, and son, and in a way, Ilya, she learned to forgive herself. Because, she always said, that she didn't like being alone, but she hopes that her team hated her for leaving, just that way they'd stay away. And that was her way of protecting them. Raven left and had no intention of going back because she wanted to avoid Salem, though for some reason she thought getting maiden powers was the smart thing to do, because that just painted a big red target on her anyway, and Salem's henchmen ended up coming anyway. Now, don't get us wrong, things did, in that instance, things did not go to plan, and I still think it's funny that one of the biggest L's Cinder ever had was against a maiden that was older and more skilled and more experienced than her. And I really think if the fight had continued, Winter would have beat Cinder. It seems like whenever she's fighting Ruby and the other, she gets the upper hand, but whenever Cinder has to fight someone more experienced, she really shows that she can't fight.
No, and it shows that she skipped out on that experience that she was gaining to do what she originally wanted to do. Now that we know her backstory, if she would have continued the right path, she would have been stronger.
But yeah, Volume 5, is she a good mother? No. Is she a good person at her core? Probably not, but just how badass she was in that fight against Cinder, I still think that's one of my all-time favorite fights in the series. I got respect for her because she put Cinder in her place. But like I said, thanks to RWBY Rewind and the epilogue, we know that we were probably right in saying that at the end of Volume 5, Raven finally has realized what her judgment has done. She actually tears up and tells Yang she's sorry. And in the epilogue, she's back. She's the one that like I've said several times, she's the one that brings Team RWBY back to everyone through a portal. So she's obviously been looking for Yang, seeing if there's any way she can find her. And so the moment they're back from the Ever After, boom, her connection to Yang is felt, and she goes and gets them.
That's why
I can't wait to see that animated.
I know. That's why also, because we had theories about that, but that also goes back to Summer, that Raven wouldn't have been able to find her in Ever After, and especially with the weapon and all that, that's another thing. That's just, so I really believe that's how Summer got in there, and Raven couldn't find her anymore. It would aid to another reason of her running, is that fear.
But the differences between Blake and Raven are many. There are some similarities, but of course, it's like toward the end of Volume 5 when Blake shows up, Yang has that look on her face that screams she came back. And you can even go ahead and look at Raven and Ty's relationship and compare it to Blake and Yang's relationship, because they're both romantic relationships, though we don't know what Ty and Raven's relationship was like. We've not seen flashbacks of it or anything like that. We've heard Ty talk about Raven a little bit, but I also want to think that Blake and Yang's relationship it has steadier ground underneath it than that relationship did, because it didn't take much for Raven just to bail. Where Blake has vowed she will never run again. She vowed at Volume 6 that she never would, and Yang told her that she knows that she never will. And ever since then, Blake's not shown any indication of ever running. She's gained courage, she's gained respect for herself, and she's going to see all this through. Then finally we have Tai and Yang. And of course, same with Summer and Ruby, they're both mother and daughter. Now we've got father and daughter. Now, we don't know Tai's semblance. It is pretty much accepted that he is a hand-to-hand fighter, just like Yang, because that's who has... I'm pretty sure it was Tai that trained her at an early age.
I don't know what she's doing.
She's asleep. She's asleep. She's sleeping like that. But yeah, other than that, we don't know much. We know that Tai was kind of the life of the crowd a little bit. Some of the stories we heard Port and Ooblet tell. And that's kind of how Yang was at the beginning. Like, I'm sure there's many who would say, wow, she's just like her dad.
Probably.
Yeah. Because she was wild, she was loud, she told all the jokes that I'm sure she heard from Tai. But it's how they both handled things after certain instances that the similarities change. When Raven left, we haven't heard much, but Summer was kind of there to pick up the pieces. Now, when Summer disappeared and never came back, we know that Tai, just crumbled. He didn't... was it ever said if he quit going to work? Because we all know...
I don't remember.
But we know that he just shut down, and Yang felt like it was her responsibility to take care of Ruby. That's why, Yang had to grow up faster than she needed to. And even in Volume 9, Ruby says, "You must have forgot who raised me." When Yang lost her arm and Blake left, it seemed like there for a sec that she may fall into that pit as well, but she didn't. It was actually Tai himself that helped her get back on her feet. And so that's one thing. Yang was a bit more emotionally stronger than her dad to quickly, as quickly as she could, recover and get back out there, where Tai just gave up for the longest time. And I think Raven leaving probably hurt things, but I'm thinking that Team Stark really fully fragmented when Summer vanished. Team RWBY has had several moments where they could have fragmented. They could have just split up and never be a team again. Whether it be the events of Volume 3, some of the events in 4, 5, and 6, what happened at the end of Volume 8, what happened in the Ever After in Volume 9. There is a lot of things that could have happened that just could have spelled their doom, but it didn't. And that's because at the end of the day, they love each other, they're a family, and they're a team. And that's why it'll be this team that saves the world of Remnant. Now, whether they choose to have the world returned how the gods wanted it, or if they reject the gods and it stays the way it is, there's no way of knowing what's going to happen. But at the end of the day, you can definitely argue about things. But I do think Team RWBY, in a way, is a better version of Team Stark. I mean, you've kind of got to draw... The similarities are already there because 2 of the members of Team RWBY are sisters, and 3 of the 4 members of Team Stark are the mothers and the father. So there was already going to be comparisons. But then, just like with Ty and Raven, you've got Blake and Yang. And you've got, all the things we talked about that you can definitely see that RWBY is a more positive parallel to Team Stark. Maybe they're in a way supposed to be what Team Stark should have been, but the team imploded. Hopefully we'll learn a little bit more about some of the members of Team Stark that we still don't have a lot of information about, especially Summer, especially Ty. Maybe if they do finally wrap up Summer's story, whether she's alive or not, we'll learn more. But yeah, I think this is a good place to end the video because the kitty's getting really restless that way.
Restless. She's falling out of my arms. She's sleeping so hard.
But I hope you've enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, leave a comment, all that good stuff. Sorry it took us so long to do a new RWBY video, but I mean, news is kind of sparse right now, and with as much as we work, it's kind of hard to sit down and really come up with ideas. But as always, guys, this is Cannan.
This is Jessie.
We love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves. This is Blake as well. And we will see you in the next one. Bye.